Hi guys. This is kind of a belated thing here. Last week was crazy. This week is crazy. But anyway, that's what you have when you have, well, small group. So here it is now. I want to review things that happened last week. Then I will be later jumping to, well, this week. So here's the thing. The op-ed was titled "Dysfunctional Democrats." It could just as easily be titled "Tyrannical Democrats." However, what I find, and I think others find, is we're watching the proposals that these Democrats in Hartford are putting forth and how people are reacting to them and how they fit in terms of the general scheme of things. I think the word dysfunctional begins to make a lot of sense. Okay, so what's driving this? More than anything else is the continuing battle over what we'll call the affordability housing crisis in Connecticut, as the Democrats would like to term it. See, I'm not so sure that's true. What I find puzzling here is that over the last, I would say, few months, there have been announcements about yet other projects that have been completed that feature affordable housing. Now, whether this is being run under the scam of just a few affordable units and the rest being full price, I would have to check. But I find it interesting that these have been showing up with greater frequency recently. Meantime, you have a battle now where the Democrats are putting forth more legislation where they want to assert even greater centralized control. But it's still being done in the context of where they're trying to create a regulatory situation where they themselves become less and less accountable for what they've created. I'm sorry, that's evidence of dysfunction. And it's also evidence of, yes, tyranny. If they're going to keep forcing themselves on people in this manner, then you know what? I have to jump to the end of my op-ed, which very simply is who else is going to do it? Okay, it's going to have to be the Republicans. But the Republicans in the state of Connecticut continue to be a weak and feckless lot, including some who have cast in with the Democrats in order to make money on the side. Hate to say it, but it sure looks like it. So, what are we left with? We are left with the noble few who are going to have to draw together, rise up, organize, mobilize if we're to have any chance at keeping, well, call it what it is, the rule of law intact in this state. Because you know what? Mandates, I don't associate that with the rule of law. Taking away local control and forming these unaccountable bodies doesn't comport with the rule of law in my mind. If anything, they seem to abuse the concept. So, yes, Republicans, we're going to have to step up our action on this. Just saying. I'm calling that my op ed right now. All right, so meantime, let's see here. How about over here? Yeah, let's just get through. There are other things here I just want to get through quick for this evening. Number one, Linda's Voter Verify Project. That's Linda Sinkowitz, the co-founder of Fight Voter Fraud. So look up fightvoterfraud.org. You'll find her online and donate to her efforts. Meantime, you have CT 169 Strong. They've been having efforts. I mean, there's going to be another webinar on the 24th trying to deal with these hearings that are coming up in Hartford. We got to do something about that. And let's see here. Let's move on to the other fun stuff. Let's see here. All right. Last week you had the House passing the SAVE Act in order to, enforce voter ID and otherwise, create some conditions for election integrity around the country. And you had the Senate dragging its feet. Well, since then, well, I'll get into it later, but there have been changes. It's still in limbo, but it's got to pass. And if President Trump has to do an executive order on it, it's got to be done. It's got to be done. The China dilemma. All right, so Taiwan announced a special defense budget. Well, all that means is that Taiwan is saying we're really stepping up to the plate now in order to put together defensive systems in the event of what we see as an increasingly inevitable invasion by communist China. Yes. Now, the other thing, though, is people were amazed when Trump kind of leaned on the Chinese and they came back and said, yeah, we'll do a big, or is it two big soybean deals, 24 million tons each, which is it's considerable, but other people were not really very excited about that. Meantime, and I don't want to, I think I've talked about this before, but I got to talk about it again. There is this still running debate, okay? And it's contentious and it gets the communist Chinese upset. It's the very simple question: what is the real population of communist China? So, to cut to the chase, you have a group of people based upon empirical data of different kinds suggesting that that population could be as low as 500 million, as high as 800 million, but certainly not 1 billion. Well, this is in spite of what is now, I think, the highest claim is 1.4 billion, but they officially backed off of that a little bit. But the other stuff doesn't line up. So I just rattle them off very quickly. Somebody who tracked salt consumption and soy sauce consumption in China, looking at the amount of lighting at night in the nights over China at night. What was the other thing? Cell phone usage, funeral activity, what happened during COVID. I know I'm leaving some other things out. Other people who tried to back out what they think the population is based upon the population of the major cities. And there are a couple other things I can't think of right now. But when you add them all up, they point in this direction of 500 to 800 million. So Chinese ain't talking, and we know that it's going to be humiliating for the Chinese leadership for it to come out that in fact China is significantly smaller than it is. But you're left with another disturbing thing here, ladies and gentlemen, and that is, was there a time when the population was significantly higher? Well, people don't want to say it, but it may well turn out that COVID was much more devastating to the Chinese population than they will ever admit. So this takes on curious features. It's the best I can say right now. But these questions are being asked, and I hope they get louder, and I hope that we actually get to the bottom of the truth about China's real population. Meantime, you had this thing, the Munich Security Conference, and see, I'm trying to remember. It was AOC, and that's right, the governor of Michigan, Gretchen the Witch Whitmer, both embarrassing themselves and showing that they don't even have basic passing knowledge on geopolitical issues such that they can issue a simple statement in a coherent and confident manner. To listen to how AOC muddled through to what finally was maybe sort of an answer really did humiliate her. And a lot of people have just said, this was her jump the shark moment where she's not going to be running for president. It ain't happening. And as far as Whitmer is concerned, all her aw shucks, I'm just a governor. Now, this is silly stuff, okay? That you don't even have a minute of time to acquaint yourself with international issues, which, by the way, affect your state, just shows I'm beginning to think there's an element of incompetence. But that wouldn't be news now, would it? Oh, my goodness, Epstein. We have to talk a little bit about Epstein, and I'll have more on Epstein. But I want to introduce a name. Okay, pay attention to this name because I think we're going to be hearing about her a lot. The name is Leslie Groff, Groff. She lives in New Canaan in a $4 million mansion, and she was Epstein's loyal secretary for some 20 years. Yes, and she's taken a very low key, low level posture following his death. But there she is, and well, she'll never admit it. She obviously knows a lot of stuff. She can claim to be innocent, But if she was the administrative assistant serving his needs, you can be sure she knows some stuff. Yes, now I have a surprise on that coming too. All right, and the Obama connection. It's just everywhere we turn, every day, because of these 3 million files, somebody else is finding something else that says, this area that we didn't pay that much attention to, now we need to pay more attention to it. Yeah. So anyway, so there are links there for you to go look at as far as that is concerned. For what it's worth, the sad tale of Anne Guthrie continues. Um, what I would say is we're in a quiet period here, and it's called That's When the Real Work is Getting Done. All right. So we'll be watching what happens to her and her poor daughter, Savannah. Yeah. Anyway, now there's another link that I put up here because apparently AI bots are flooding the internet like never before. And I think a lot of people realize that these bots are coming from China. So the fair question is what's going on with that? There's no obvious answer. Um, and I think the other problem we have to keep in mind here, ladies and gentlemen, is when you say AI, the the list of capabilities, the quote skill sets that you can find inside AI are growing. So I think we're going to find these AI bots can start doing a lot more damage than we realize right now. I'm just saying. And then I just want to mention this link I have here. January real estate sales were down 8%, which is unusual. It seems like a lot, but January is usually a bad month anyway. I mean, for example, January of 2025, it turns out was one of the lowest levels of buyer activity on record, not just for January. So I think what we're seeing here is that in a funny way, the real estate market is going through volatile changes. Okay, where activity drops off, then it recovers. Drops off, then it recovers. And but it's still caught in a range, and it hasn't. Inventory hasn't gone up. Sales kind of have gone up here and there. Rates are going down a little bit, but you need more. You need a lot more. And there's something we're waiting for from, I want to say, Fannie Mae. It's supposed to kick in, or Freddie Mac, and that could move the market as far as mortgage is concerned. But we'll see. And the link is there again. You got to go see it. Meantime, this very annoying woman, I think her name was Karen Kraus, who it's not that she lied, but let's say she mischaracterized um, this chapter that was forming at a school in Maryland. And the big thing is that she was claiming that parents were excluded. Well, that is true, and it is not true. All right, the links are there. Check that out. Meantime, I'll just say for the week of February 16th, we've passed the 500-day mark here for Tina Peters. The injustice is just, I just, I would hope that when justice is done, it will be done in full measure, especially on Governor Polis, as well as Jenna Griswold, who really is the bad actor in this story. Okay, I just want to mention that for the food additive of the week, remember those PAM sprays you pick up at the store? They supposedly spray olive oil onto the pan. Well, you need a propellant to get the oil on there, and the propellant is not the healthiest thing in the world. So I would suggest stop using PAM spray. If you're going to put olive oil on there, put the real thing on. You'll do so much better. The Maha movement continues. All right, and then I just have to mention in passing, here's the last item. A teacher of the year candidate in California was caught as a pedophile. You'd think the school systems would do a better job. But anyway, I just want to mention, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you remember, there was a time when there were all kinds of pedophile scandal children I should say, child sexual assault scandals coming out of the Catholic Church. What people don't tell you is that the amount of children's sex scandals that come out of the public school system is 10 times as great as that out of the Catholic Church. Yet they want to make more noise about the Catholic Church. That is so typical of the media. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. That's the news. Looking at it from 16 February 2026. All right, and there's more coming. There is more coming.